Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a weekly motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all. This week, we are brought to you once again, and as always, by Working Class Customs, which is a custom fabrication shop out of northern Utah, and you can direct any other questions on that to Cole.
And I'm Cole.
I'm Easton. We are your two favorite hosts of your favorite weekly motorcycle podcast.
The weather's going away.
Yeah, that's what I was actually also just looking at the same thing. It used to be like for the next week and a half, Alabama was just going to be rainy, but now it's only through Saturday? ?
Friday and Saturday.
That's why
this
it's
morning
through.
Fine, but this morning it was like you're right. It was like a 4-day stretch, so it's down to a 2-day stretch with lower numbers on it. So we'll check again tomorrow. It'll probably be snow.
Yeah, we're also specializing in weather conditions at racetracks.
Hey, they're important.
Where there will be racing near you soon. Are they though? You know, a certain friend of ours, I had mentioned, hey man, it could be raining while you're there. And I was kind of surprised to learn that he didn't even know about that. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, for me, the type of person I am, 100% important. Like, I'm going to know that weather. I'm going to check it down to the second so I can know exactly. All right, I could have a whole weekend planned out, all that analytical, whatever that you give me crap for all the time. The weather's definitely included in the things that I need to know. But for someone that just flies by the seat of their pants and is better off not being nervous about anything and just going with it when it goes, I'm not trying to say that anyone may or may not fly by the seat of their skinny jeans at their Starbucks coffee trip. But maybe the weather isn't so important and you just show up, and if it's raining, it's raining. Okay, we'll deal with that now, but why stress over it? So anyway.
Well, no, you're right, but it's not about that. It's like, it's one of those things, like you said, you can't do anything about it. So
yeah.
But there's a happy medium. You should still be prepared for it. So
yeah, I would have at least looked at the weather, at least, once. But whatever. If you're too busy wearing skinny jeans, drinking coffee, going to your favorite coffee joint known as Starbucks, then, that's what you're into, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I hear skinny jeans don't get as wet as other pants.
Okay.
Fact checkers. Boom.
Yeah. Let us know.
Can we just roll the intro?
If you want to, yeah.
Before I get myself in trouble, let's roll the intro.
All right, intro it is. Roll it.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sick. Miles an hour.
And we're back.
We're back. And we're live.
That stuff's going to catch up with you, Easton.
Which stuff? Being live?
No, stuff. Like, you got to be healthy.
Apple juice is perfectly healthy, Cole. I'm getting my vitamin C in to beat the cold.
No, it's not. It's packed with sugar.
Well, the sugar comes from apples, which comes from trees, which comes from the ground.
Where I dump my used motor oil. Imagine what that tree's drinking.
Motor oil lubricates the joints. Try again.
No, that's not true. There's a new special on castor oil and when the United States started eating oil. New on Netflix. Check it out. Anyway.
Okay.
Not just for your car anymore.
Well, hey, okay. Before we get off on oil and tangents and whatever else, would you like to hear our weekly riding tip?
Absolutely.
Awesome. This week's weekly riding tip is once again brought to you by Bagnaia Motorsports, which is private coaching to build solid riders through vision-based training. And this week's tip is focus on the exit. Setting yourself up for a strong drive leaving a corner is far more important than braking a few feet deeper into a corner. Many newer riders focus on pushing brake markers rather than setting up for early throttle and strong drive. Maximizing the straights, getting top speed quicker, and staying there longer will yield seconds and seconds off your lap times versus pushing brake markers on entry yielding only fractions of a second. Give up a little early to gain a lot later. That is this week's riding tip. Once again, brought to you by Bagnaia Motorsports, operating out of MSRH Vision-Based Training. What's your thoughts, Cole? I want to hear them.
The man is correct. The man is correct, and that's my reason for, braking early. because I've known that all along.
Okay. It sounds like a personal story, a little bit, maybe backstory on Cole, the early breaker back in the day before he started racing.
Yeah, I'm not an early breaker anymore. I'm late. I'm usually late to the party on the brakes.
That's good.
To,
That's what they
but
say you want.
yeah, but not if it's sacrificing exit speed.
That's fair. So
And
sorry, go ahead. You're good.
and yeah, I know how important that is. Along those lines, I was getting some coaching tips in my ear from some people that are better than me that were watching,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking a lot about corners and setting up corners, and if you're sitting on 1,000, you don't need to. You might lose some ground going on corner entry to make sure you're setting up and utilizing that big horsepower on the way out. So
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead
kind
and
of where my thoughts were. I was like, with the leader bike, you can definitely 100% take your corner a little weird and just get on that throttle as fast as you
It's
can because
not.
that's where it's at.
It's not weird. It's for the 1,000 guys. It's normal. You guys are doing corners weird.
Sure. You know who's doing it weird is the 250 guys. That
Two
just
stroke 250 guys.
no, the like 4-stroke 250 super slow guys that are actually way faster than you, but you don't know how because they're just out on the outside doing double your speed. You're like, what are you doing? They're like, well, we don't have any power, so we have to keep it all here. It's the only
That's a
way we
funny
get
side
through.
note. There's a couple of those old, two stroker 250s that are
Mm-hmm.
always hanging out at the track or whatever, and it's starting to get harder and harder to find classes for those guys to keep running those bikes and everything else.
Yeah,
But
mostly because there's only a couple of them.
yeah, but I learned this past weekend that they're running front tires on the front and the rear of those bikes because nobody makes a tire for those anymore.
I was
So
too skinny back there or something.
it's just they're not popular enough. So the tire companies have kind of abandoned making solutions for them. So they're running at least in a slick.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running 120s front and back.
That's interesting.
It it was it made perfect sense after I learned that. You go look at them, you're like, yep,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
is a
it doesn't surprise me, but I almost feel like if I had an older bike like that and I was really trying to be competitive with it, I feel like I'd be more inclined to put a different swing arm on it. But if it's working on that size tire, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't
no.
fixed, don't broke it.
Okay. Those guys take some big old swooping lines.
I believe it. That's because they got to stay up in that rev range.
No, yeah. I'm sorry, we weren't trying to make this the snow episode again, but when it was freezing out there, them poor two-stroke guys were having a hard time getting those Deermen warm up enough to go.
I can imagine that. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, Utah. Gotta love the cold over there. All right. Well, anyway, we got to close out the weekly writing tip. I do 100% agree with Josh. I like that. And it when I read it for the first time, it just made sense. I was like, oh, okay, because no one ever really talks about it. I like that tip because no one everyone's always like push that brake. Like you can brake later, you're braking too early, and he's out here like, okay, just brake early, but then focus on the back half of it, and it makes a lot of sense because you can 100% make up a lot of time if you hit the straights with full speed.
Make the
Now, I
straight.
will say if you hit halfway down the straight and you let off because you're starting to brake, I don't quite think that's what he means there, but another great tip.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh.
So, moving on from the weekly riding tip to the weekly, not so weekly motorcycle racing coverage. What did
What do
we,
you mean? What do you mean not so weekly? We're still gearing up.
that's true, I guess.
When's the next weekend without a race?
That's right. So 2 weekends ago was Moto GP. Last weekend was USBA. This weekend's Moto GP. Next weekend's Moto America. The weekend after that is USBA again.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just freaking jam packed with motorcycle racing this year. This is great.
It's that time of year. That time of year.
That
Tire bills are skyrocketing.
means we
Gas
really don't have
prices.
to do near as much in the great entertainment department.
Oh yeah, because some French people are doing it for us.
Dude, that's a great place to start. Another record from the French GP, 290 some odd thousand. fans.
But wait, there's more.
What do you got?
You're missing the part where they misreported last week. Did you miss that?
Uh-uh.
They misreported by 100,000 in Jerez, and they had to come out and apologize that there really was 100,000 less people than they said there was.
Oof.
So they assured everybody this time that it is, in fact, the new record, and they will not be making any corrections.
Okay. Gotta love
You,
that.
you missed the calculation error.
So it's only funny because I had a couple buddies over to watch the race this weekend. It was great. Nice part about being here in America is we can watch it whenever. The only crappy part about that is that if you get on any sort of social media on Sunday,
You're
usually,
screwed.
yeah, it's over. It's done. Spoiled. Whatever. Which, spoiler alert, we don't care about spoilers here on the show. So it's Wednesday. If you haven't watched it by now, sorry. Get over it. We're here to tell you all about it. But
now there's a sprint race.
well, hang on. We haven't gotten over the fans
No,
yet.
I'm not getting into the sprint race. I'm still on that thought.
Oh,
The spoiler alert, since they race on the sprint race, social media is off from Thursday afternoon.
yeah. I mean, like the spoiler of qualifying and whatever, right?
No,
But
I hate that too.
it is kind of nuts to like get up on Saturday morning, right? And the sprint's already done. Well, not quite. Maybe for you it's done. For me, it's not quite, but it's about to happen. It's like, do I watch the sprint live first thing in the morning, or do I watch qualifying, and then the sprint's halfway through, and I can't get on, and I don't want to like start late, but then you have to wait for Moto GP to actually upload it. Anyway, it's a whole mess.
You have to go like this. You cover your eyes. You put it on live, and then you just start like trying to scrape the thing back.
You just take it back to the beginning.
You take it back to the beginning, and then you can open your eyes, and you can start moving forward from there until you catch up.
Okay, that's a. I'm not going to try that, but that's a decent plan. So if you were wondering how to watch MotoGP, there you go. Cole's got your mad tips for you.
40% of the time, it works 80% of the time.
That is not very good. Like people usually at least end that with 100% of the time. You didn't even give me that.
No. I've learned just to hand it.
Anyway, my buddy that was over here, we heard the record-breaking crowd statement, whatever, in France, which I think they set one last year also, or at least they had a big crowd last year. And he's like, I'm like, man, that's crazy, dude. That's a lot of people. He's like, well, doesn't Coda sell out? I was like, what? Yeah, I did that, actually. I was like, no, Coda does not sell out. 100% not. I wish it did. That'd be awesome. Kind of. I mean, then I can't put my feet up at the race, but but no, not even close. Not even for F1. I don't know if Coda sells anything out, honestly.
Oh, F1 sold out. NASCAR sells out. Those
you
things.
Think F1 sells out at Coda?
I think so.
I doubt it. I'm a fact check that. While I'm fact checking that, Cole will fill you in on your weekly motocross minute since someone yelled at me to bring it back.
Motocross is over. Supercross is over. So,
all right, good. Minute's up.
No. So there was this guy. Okay, what say you? There was I just got to say, the championships were all pretty much decided in Supercross for the most part. But during the race, Jason Anderson, the man, the myth, the legend, riding the wrong color bike, but still, great dude. He passed little Hunter Lawrence pretty aggressively.
Okay.
Towards the end of that race, as Hunter Lawrence, had an off and, was being lapped because of what Jason Anderson had done to him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
When Jason Anderson came to pass him as lap traffic, he just detoured and ran into Jason Anderson. Okay.
Tracking.
Boom.
Got it. Yep.
So what do you think should happen to that guy?
The penalty. Long lap penalty. Double long lap penalty.
There's no long lap penalties.
Oh, weird. I wonder why I don't care about motocross or supercross.
Oh, for God's sakes. Okay. You know what? It was just an interesting discussion happening after the race because that race was in Utah, by the way.
Okay.
And it got delayed.
Because of the snow?
Because of lightning. They had to evacuate the stadium.
Oh, all right.
So no, but if a guy, I mean, let's put it in your world. Okay, let's put it in your world, the Moto GP world.
Okay.
So Joan Mir,
Yep.
he accidentally starts from second to last, as
Okay.
opposed to dead last, right?
Yeah. Yep. Tracking.
Yeah, and let's say the last place guy, of course, passes him
Mm-hmm.
and aggressively bumps him
Okay. Yep.
to make that pass happen. 2 laps later, when Joan Mir is getting passed for the third time,
Yep.
when he's being lapped, he decides to just run into the guy that hit him aggressively earlier. Which bike
Mm-hmm.
is more in the wrong? That's the question I pose.
I would say Joan Mir.
Exactly.
Just a thought. I used to do that. This is sorry to
You used
have
to
an
hit
offshoot here, but
people?
yeah, when I would play NASCAR on the
Oh,
PlayStation, if I got passed once, I would just turn around and start going backwards, and I just take out the guy in first place and then restart the race.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but in
That's
real life, there's consequences to that, so there should definitely be some consequences to doing something like that.
well, they're talking about that's going to probably cost Jason Anderson like 250 grand in bonuses, and because they make actual money over there as opposed to our poor Moto America guys.
Wow, that's kind of wild.
So that's a huge deal. I mean, race bonuses are huge. It's everything. Getting on the podium there, it's everything.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. I don't.
I guarantee if they had that kind of purse money in Moto America, the talent level would magically increase.
Probably. I don't know about from America, but yeah.
But that's enough for the Supercross minute. Thank you for your gracious, you know, time there since you had so much going on. But
Yeah. But so
since
back to does
yeah,
Coda sell out F1 tickets?
yeah.
They do. Says in the
Huh.
past they have sold out tickets. In 2021, many tickets were sold out before the race. It says many tickets, so it's not like they necessarily like you've
They
got different
sold how many
packages.
is many? Like more than 5? So they had at least 5 tickets sold before the race. That was
I,
many tickets.
I don't know, but in 2024, which is this year, so if you haven't bought them yet, sorry, maybe I don't know. Coda offered to buy back early bird general admission tickets for more than face value. So they obviously sold enough that they were like, hey, if you bought some like last year and you're not going, sell them back, we'll buy them back and then resell them again at a higher price. So
Because you know why?
because cars are cooler than motorcycles, and that is where the podcast ends
No,
this week.
no,
Thank
no.
you everyone for listening.
It's because turn 15, they finally put in shade covers.
Did they actually?
Yes.
Oh,
So
how
now the
nice.
ticket prices are skyrocketing, FYI.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Sounds good. All right. Well, anyway, there's your random news. Since we're also a news channel, other random news. Just to bring it up, KTM has a street bike coming out. It's currently zebra painted. Looks kind of cool. Got wings on it. It's in the 800 class. Weird. That's all I have on that for now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see some costs. I'd like to see it's an RC9, right? Is that what they're calling it?
I think so. Let me go ahead and double check us on that. KTM street bike new. Nope.
Because it doesn't sound like
There it is.
I want KTM to come out with a bike that everybody can buy. Not just the elite few.
The 990 RCR 2025. Even on their website, it's still got the zebra stripes on it, but they have a picture of it with zebra stripes on their website.
Yeah, because it's actually their 2027 Moto GP bike.
That's what
Probably.
I was I saw the CCs and I was like, yeah, interesting. We're dumping it down, but 990 is not necessarily 850. So
But
does that mean KTM's entering World Superbike? Food for thought. Let us know down in the comments. We need to get into MotoGP.
no, we don't, because we have another interesting point to bring up. Let's get your
Okay.
take. Let's get your take on this. During the telecast or before the telecast, during the what do you call them? The rider interviews. What do they call
Press
that?
conference.
Press conference. They had a press conference to talk about the changes for
Yes,
MotoGP.
indeed.
During that press conference, one of the most interesting tidbits that got dropped, in my opinion, was somebody from the media asked, are we in danger if we move the Moto GP bikes to 800 cc's? Are we in danger of the World Superbikes being faster on a lap time?
Yeah. Okay.
And they said, oh, don't worry about that. We're also talking rule changes in World Superbike. We've been in negotiations with all the manufacturers. So
Mm.
expect changes to be coming. So I'm just a crazy redneck. So don't listen to what I say, but that can only mean two things to me. One, they're going to make those bikes closer to stock because they flat out said MotoGP will be faster.
Yeah.
There's only two ways you can do that. You've talked all the manufacturers into going ahead and abandoning the thousands
Mm-hmm.
and making their top tier sport bikes in that 850cc range
Or less.
or less. Or World Superbike is going to make new rules to where their bikes have to be closer to stock than they are now.
Yeah. No engine modification.
Yeah, no nothing,
No.
swing arms, all that kind of stuff. You got to run what you brung, run what the factory make. And for me, I don't mind that. I think if they were closer, we would probably see some even cooler bikes coming out because they would have to make bikes with the parts that they want in order
Yeah,
to.
but I don't. Just to argue your point, I don't see them doing that rule because then the only thing keeping them back is emissions. But they could, if they don't dumb down the CCs, they're gonna roll it up until they can get fast enough, right? So I don't see that happening. That's we're in a hard time. Someone needs to start a petition against MotoGP to keep the 1000 cc's, so that World Superbike can keep the 1000 cc's, so that we can keep our 1000 cc bikes. Like, what would the world be like without leader bikes?
I don't know.
That is the question they're asking now, right? Is and not asking. That's a question that we're going to be answering within the next decade. You'll see this podcast probably disappear. Sorry, but it's I don't know. I mean, they haven't really been around for that long when you think about it.
No,
A
but
4-cylinder, 4-stroke, 1000 cc super sport bike has not been around for a long, long time. It's it's a fairly young vehicle to just be like, okay, we're done with that, and we're actually going down rather than up.
I don't know. That opens up a lot of can of worms because, as we always point out, I mean, there's a lot of 1000+ cc bikes as well.
True.
And there's honestly no reason that they can't still keep making a 1000cc bike for the market and race 850s or whatever. It's just I don't see them creating. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't think I like it.
The issue is that the 1000 cc bikes that they're racing in World Superbike are based off of a street bike, right? They have to be. They have to be
Mhm.
based off of what the company sells. And so, like, that's one of the reasons why Yamaha's keeping, I think, anyway, keeping the R1 around, question mark, as a track only bike.
Well, probably, but I mean, we won't be able to buy one soon.
Yeah. So where did that go? The issue is that if you actually look into it, most manufacturers sell a lot of other bikes because all the other bikes are where they make their money. Their super sports are only on the market because they have to be to race in World Superbike in whatever they might be racing in.
Well, partially, but that's a whole nother can of worms because Chevy might make a Camaro because somebody will be a Camaro fan and go buy a Lumina or a Corsica or showing my age. What do they make? A, a Spark. What is Chevy? A Cruise.
Yeah, Chevy Cruze.
Yeah, but they might buy a Chevy Cruise because they're a fan of the Camaro, or they might buy a Taurus because they're a fan of the Mustang, or they might.
Okay, I get what you're saying, right? Someone might be an S1000 fan, and so they go buy a GS 125.
Yeah.
Not in America.
Okay, so let's just stick on the Chevy thing, right? If you took, and I'm not even saying the cars are cool or not cool, but let's say you take Chevrolet's lineup, you get rid of the Corvette, you get rid of the truck, you get rid of the Camaro,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
they've already done. But if you
Yeah.
get rid of those and then it's just Chevy makes these cars, you can't be a fan of that. Every
True.
car company has their flagship. Every bike company has their flagship. You root for the flagship and then you buy what you can afford because you're a fan of the flagship vehicle.
Okay, I agree with that. The issue with motorcycles here in America is most people that go buy a motorcycle don't watch motorcycle racing at all.
Well, that's fair.
So I agree with what you're saying. That's how it should be, 100%. But most people are not even. Most of my friends that own motorcycles, I go talk to them. They've never heard of Moto America. They might have heard of Moto GP, maybe. And you mentioned like, oh, the guys that drag knee, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. It looks kind of crazy. You're like, we've talked about this before. Valentino Rossi is about the only name you can throw out anymore that people maybe recognize, maybe if you're lucky. And he doesn't even race. Hasn't for what, 3-4 years now.
Yeah, and his
So
name sounds foreign, so people just say they know who he is just so that they don't offend somebody.
yeah, well, and he was also maybe arguably like one of the big. How do I put this? The more crowd pleasing riders.
He's the biggest name in motorcycle history, whether you like him or not.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So,
So anyway, that's all just food for thought. I don't know where that conversation was going, or if we have an
so,
answer, but things are changing.
so right before we get into MotoGP, I have to hurry and do my Joe Roberts segment.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. What do we got? I didn't catch Moto 2 this week.
Good job, Joe. I think Joe had the wrong tire choice this week, but the consistency is what's really. We didn't have a good race and then 4 bad races and then another good race. He's up there every week right now. And started middle of the front row.
Mm-hmm.
Was in second for a large portion of that race. I think him and one other bike were the only ones that took the tires that he chose. The other guy crashed out early on, and I do believe he ran out of tire at the end. But he made a very exciting last lap. There was a mistake ahead of him. They were able to close a gap, and he could have come out second again. It could have went either way. He come out in fourth. Lost the points championship, unfortunately, but none of that matters right now. The consistency, keep going, keep going up there, looking good.
Yeah, heck yeah. I honestly think that Joe Roberts must have listened to us last year and decided that he wanted to give us something to watch. He is still running second in the world championship, just for everyone's knowledge, and he's only 7 points behind. So if anyone knows anything about how those championship standings work,
He's
anything
fine.
can happen. I'm not going to say that he could be right back in first next week. He could be 100%. Anything can happen. That's all I'm going to say on that. Not trying to jinx anything. So, but yeah,
It's a
100%. That's awesome. Finished fourth in the race.
it's a long season. Just keep banking points. Be there at the end.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about that before too. Honestly, consistently finishing top 5 often sees you further ahead than someone that wins. Like you can see someone win 2 races in a row and be like, man, this guy's good. Then he DNFs a couple and you're like, it's okay, he won twice. Meanwhile, there's Joanne Mir freaking sitting in the back, placing
Well,
fifth every race.
not to take anything away from Cameron Bovier. Guy's awesome. Guy did awesome over there. I loved rooting for him while I was over there. I love rooting for him now. But to kind of just put it into perspective, I mean, I more probably than Cameron felt like he had a great 2 years over there.
Yeah.
There was highs, there was lows, probably more lows than highs. But the guy was out there fighting with the world's best, and from week to week, he could fight with anybody. And
Right.
he came back a better racer, right?
Yeah.
But and I don't have those numbers in front of me, so whatever. But I think his best finish in 2 years was probably a fourth. He never actually made the podium. I think his best finish was a fourth. And
Yeah, I can.
I felt like that was I give him more props than he probably gives himself. I think he did great over there. It's nothing to nothing to hang your head about, in my opinion. But you look at Joe Roberts just this year, stringing together second place, fourth place, second place.
Yeah.
He's putting it
Yeah.
on the
No.
podium. I mean, something's changed over there. That boy's consistent. He's hot.
Definitely doing good. Definitely doing good. So yeah. Heck yeah, Joe Roberts. Keep it up. I need to start actually watching the Moto 2 races. I'll set a reminder next week to actually watch it.
Obviously, how can you do this?
So I'm so just not in the habit that I get up. I'm like, all right, sweet. At this time today, we're gonna get on and watch Moto GP, and then I do that, and then I like check the fantasy, and then I'm texting you like, man, it was a crazy race, whatever it might be, and then I just kind of forget that anything else exists. So I need to start like, nope, we're gonna Moto 2, watch that first, so I get it done. I make sure I do it. Especially, I mean, there's an American doing some amazing things over there. I need to start paying attention, and I'll own that, all day.
Support him. So does that bring us to the fantasy segment?
It does.
How'd I do?
How did you do?
Don't answer that. I'm just kidding.
Oh, we'll answer it. Don't you worry.
You realize I'm the defending champion from last year. I mean, something's wrong
You're the defending champion from last year.
from our
Oh
fantasy.
yeah, from our on Grid Rival though, which is a little different. This is our first year playing like big time playing this. So, the fantasy Mr. Cole Burmester, otherwise known as Working Class, has moved down to 18th place, but you still have all your boosts left. So, let's see our top point scorer this week again running out of boosts. In fact, completely ran out now. Is Team Thor, and they are now in first place. So they boosted themselves up, scored a whopping 207.5 points, which is just shy of 30 points ahead of the next best person. Yeah, they are currently holding down first place. Definitely scored the most. Hit us up again, and we'll get you another prize, or maybe we'll see you this upcoming weekend here in a day or two from when this comes out.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I missed it. Triple three racing, 179.5. So more than just shy of 30, but still pretty much just shy of 30. Anyway, your top three, I'll give you Team Thor is in first, currently holding it down with 757 total. Duke out of Canada is in second with 721.5. And then Oldhead, you're holding up third place with 705.5 points total. With the nope, not quite. That's your problem, Cole. You got the lowest priced team on the grid.
Yeah, but they've done so bad. I don't have any money to buy anybody different now.
You can't trade them out because they got to win first.
I actually tried trading them out. Luckily, I didn't save it because I couldn't get a fourth rider. That's how bad it is. And that was if I went with the two cheapest guys. They're trying to make me buy Stefan Brattle. I couldn't afford Stefan Brattle. He doesn't even race.
He doesn't. It's not even a rider. I will say it's rough, and if you're in a hole, you might get stuck in that hole. You are down at only getting 108 points this last weekend, which is a full 20 behind the dude in last place right now, and he came in a couple weeks late. So
I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling. I don't think there's a way out.
Hey, you know what? Someone's got to be the bottom of the pack. I'm glad you're taking care of it for us.
Yeah, I do what I can.
So anyway, I will tell you, for everyone listening, a lot of the people up here in the top, I'd say the top looks like 7, 8. The top 8 have all used at least one boost. So for those of you down in the bottom holding out on your boosts, keep holding out. I don't know. I can't tell you when to use them. I don't know how well those work, but
well, if they're in my situation, I can put all 3 boosts on Joanne Mir. It ain't going to do a damn thing for me.
Hey, you never know, dude. Sometimes Honda like runs a test run and they're like, check out our awesome bike. And they get one good race. That was when
sometimes Honda used to do that.
Last year when they had a golden underwear working for them.
Listen, just so anybody wants to copy my lineup, I've upgraded. I did the math. I figured it out. I did everything I could to upgrade my team. I upgraded to Frankie Morbidelli. That ought to tell you what kind of situation I'm in.
Hey, people are saying he's finding a new him again. Still,
That's why I made that move, because it's the best I could come up with.
3 years later.
I mean, he's fired after this year. I don't know where he's going, but he is coming on.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Frankie Morbidelli. Let's see. 7th in the race.
He should have never shaved his head.
That's what did him in. 12th in the sprint. On a factory bike. This year, current year, factory bike.
The best factory bike.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, all right. That wraps up fantasy. Team Thor, hit us up. We'll see you this weekend, I assume. Unless there's just actually some dude that's named Thor.
Better be a big feller.
Yeah, you would think, but you never know. So there is a like big talk that we got to talk about that everyone already knows, and I'm very excited about. It was a great weekend for me. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but you can't argue that it wasn't a great weekend for me. And I'm not just here to say like this guy's the best and he's always going to be the best, but beyond that, where would you like to start?
He ain't gonna get the job.
Is that where you want to start?
Let's start there. He ain't getting the job.
Okay, let's just not actually talk about contracts because no one knows, man.
I know. I called BMW, and now I'm going to call this.
Okay.
If Ducati knows what they're doing, for those that don't know, now you know. We're talking about the Ducati contract. The deal is they keep Bastianini, they switch to Jorge Martin, or they bring up Marc Marquez. That's the three choices.
For the factory Ducati. Yep. Pecco already signed another 2-year deal. There's a whole bunch of jokes going around about are they regretting that one? No, they're not regretting that. Pecco's still doing pretty okay. Jorge Martin is just doing absolutely amazing this year. And so
pretty okay more.
Yeah.
So here's what's going to happen. If they're smart. If they're smart, Jorge Martin takes that seat next year.
Yep. Okay.
Marc Marquez goes to Pramac.
Okay.
Because they are in a tough situation. Either one of those guys can go up there, but whichever one doesn't go up there.
So Marc's going to ride a Yamaha?
No. So Jorge Martin is done with you guys. He's done with you guys if you don't give him the factory seat after this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, screw you guys. Who knows where he'll end up.
Yep.
If they don't want to lose him, which I'm sure they don't, they've got to give him that factory ride. He deserves it.
Yeah, he actually literally got quoted, if they don't want me, I'll give my talent to other people.
Right. Therefore, Jorge Martin takes Bastianini's seat. Because I think they can steal one more year. Marc doesn't know where he's going. He's kind of, I mean, he hasn't said anything negative about Grassini, but he hasn't been quiet about he's gonna go somewhere else next year.
Yeah.
That was just a stop along the way to figure out the bike. Now he wants a better bike.
Correct.
So the right move for Ducati, put Jorge Martin on a 1-year deal. And maybe they can't get him for a 1-year deal. Maybe he'd demand 2. I don't know. But you put Jorge Martin, well, hell, maybe you put him on for 2 years, and then if Pecco falters, you move Marc into Pecco's spot after his contract runs out.
Yeah, but Pecco's in a 2-year contract.
I know, but after this year, he'll only have 1. So next year, you move Jorge Martin.
No, Pecco's this year's already signed. He signed 2 more years, 25 and 26.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's the big issue, right? Because that's where all the jokes are coming from is Pecco, like second race in or before that even, signed a 2-year contract for 2025 and 2026, causing Ducati to be locked up there. Now the other seat's open for 1 year, 2 year, 4 year, 3 year, whatever they want to do, they can do with it. So do they bring in Marc? Obviously, that's like a big talk, easy talk, because Marc's doing so good, adapted so quickly. Or do they bring in Jorge, who quite honestly deserves it? Should have gotten it last year or the year before, maybe. But did Enea was it his injury? Whatever, right? There's all that discussion. But you would be correct, except the Pecco has 2 years, and Ducati can't break that. They could, but for a lot of money.
You're right. But I got, that wasn't the point of my, so let me back up again. So the right thing for Ducati to do is move Jorge Martin on the other factory seat, taking Bastianini's spot. You can still love Bastianini. Stick him on the other Pramac bike. Stick him. I mean, it sounds like they're going to have all their Ducatis. They might only lose 2 this year.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't lose any. But you can find another spot for Bastianini. And if that's on a VR46 bike, he's got friends there.
Mm-hmm.
If that's on a Grassini bike, maybe he takes Marc's seat, goes back to Grassini. He was the savior at Grassini. He was winning races for him. He was putting them on the map. So maybe he has a happy spot back there for them. But the only thing he can do is, I think the only thing Ducati can do that doesn't blow up everything is hope that Marc is happy moving to Pramac for 1 year.
Yeah.
Put Jorge Martin on the factory Ducati next to Pecco. You keep all 3 of them in the stable. If you're counting Bastianini, you technically keep him in the stable. And
So this is the issue when you have one bike that's dominating the grid. And we already know KTM is kind of locked up because of how many people they have. And there's the other question of Ducati promising what's his nuts a ride? Question mark that we haven't even talked about. That part's kind of difficult.
They offered him a Pramac as well.
Yep. So Ducati's kind of in a really tight spot right now. Here's the kicker.
Morbidelli's gone.
Yeah,
and Jorge Martin
I got all that.
There's 2 open bikes. That's one for the new guy, one for Marc.
The question is going to be: is Jorge going to be willing to wait around for Ducati to offer him that seat?
If we were in this situation 5 years ago, they would have already lost him.
Yeah, but if Aprilia tomorrow comes to Jorge, is like, here you go, factory seat, same price, same all the same conditions. Aprilia, you literally just taking over a leash. We'll pay you just as much as Ducati was going to. Is he going to wait around for Ducati to say, you're here?
I don't think so, but I would be super surprised if Aprilia hasn't already made their run at him.
I think he would have said something. I don't know. This is why we don't spend too much time on it, because it's all just a silly season and no one actually knows, and there's a whole bunch of rumors. It's what keeps Moto GP alive and happy.
I think it's important for 2027. There's rule changes, big ones. Yeah. All bets are off. Joanne Mir might be fast again.
Maybe.
I doubt it. But we're looking at the situation. How many years does Marc really have left? He only has so many years to do it. But the reason I say that situation's right is if you move Marc to Pramac or nothing, if you give him a Pramac or nothing, what's he going to do? He can't go to KTM. You go back to Honda and Yamaha and get your butt kicked for the next couple of years again? Or he wants to stay on a Ducati, and arguably the Pramac would be a step up. He'd get him a 2024. He'd be on the same bike as the factory guys. And that's the right move for him. And there's all those arguments. There's no reason. I don't even know why they're having this discussion. I think Jorge Martin's on the factory bike. Marc Marquez goes to Pramac. That's my call. That's the envelope. Lick it, stick it, seal it.
We'll write it down. We'll keep it in the back pocket. The only thing I'm going to say is that there are a lot of bigger people in the background that work a lot of things. And I think that Marc knows a lot more and a lot bigger people than Jorge does. And he can bring things to the table that Jorge cannot.
So I am not a Jorge fan, as you are aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you are a Marc fan.
True.
But at this point, I cannot deny that guy deserves it. I don't care if there's 50 people. If there's 50 people that all deserve it or have arguments for it, I'm going to be really disappointed if he doesn't get that shot. If the year keeps...
Yeah, I won't argue that on that. Jorge Martin, 100%. Should be... I mean, he's riding a factory bike and riding it better than anyone else. So, what are you doing? Why is he not already there?
Yeah, and I would say... I mean, I know one of the things you were going to pop off about, and so sorry not to steal that thunder, but you said great weekend, I'm assuming for Marc, because the guy starts, 13th, 12th?
Yeah, 13th.
And then comes up to the front.
Yep.
On one hand, that was extremely awesome. It was great. awesome, and we'll let you talk more about that in a second. But Jorge starts at the front, stays at the front, kind of less fireworks,
Yeah.
but he still handily won that race.
Yeah, no, 100%. I will not ever take anything away from Jorge Martin and his talent, his ability, because he's amazing. Comes out, qualifies first, races first, finishes first, goes to sleep, wakes up, starts first, finishes first. Like, done deal. Got it. I'm your racer.
Yeah.
So the question just simply remains: how much does Ducati care about the camera, and who gets more camera time? That is the only reason I would argue who's going to get that seat next year. Not a talent based argument, but
I agree. And if you're Ducati, you want your bike to win, your factory bikes to win. But how bad is it if a Pramac bike wins, or a Grassini or a VR46? I mean, it's a little bit of a slap to them. You want to beat those guys first or whatever, but as long as Ducati's winning, that's job done.
yeah. Well, and that's kind of been some talk too, though, is that Gigi Dell'Igna truly only cares about. They were like, why is he going over and congratulating all these people and not caring about Pecco? And like, it's his bike. It's a Ducati. But he should be happy about it. He built a bike. He built a program. His bike took first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Like
Yeah.
it took all the places. So
I'm sorry, Pecco, but everybody likes a winner.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Anyway, let's kick off with the sprint. Qualifying was real quick on qualifying, and this is somewhat related, sparked by the happenings of what happened to my guy, but also to his brother. The whole yellow flag rule canceling your lap. And like I said, sparked by makes me think of any time it's happened to anyone. So I'm not just pinpointing like, oh, Marc should have had first place if it. No, not what I'm trying to say. But yellow flag, if you hit a yellow flag at any time during your lap time is canceled. And there was one point this weekend where someone would have held a new record. It was then later beat. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he's a record holder right now, but
Golden underwear.
For that split second, his little brother actually would have held a new lap record.
Mini
But
underwear.
it was canceled by a yellow flag, and I was just like, man, that kind of blows, because you're like, hey, no, sorry.
So I have a thought on that. What is the purpose of the yellow flag?
You don't pass under a yellow flag.
And caution, and there's somebody crashed, and all those things, right?
Yeah.
When Baby Underwear set his fast lap, and the yellow flag was going, and the lap got canceled, did he lift? Did he slow down because there was yellow? Obviously not.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I don't know for sure.
He said they're setting these fast laps under that yellow flag.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, right? The laps get canceled. Sometimes it's the rider's best laps. Maybe not for the pole, but it would have got him in Q1 or Q2. All those things, right?
Yeah.
So if the yellow flag is for safety and they see a yellow flag and they're still allowed to go balls out as fast as they can go, what have you saved?
Nothing.
So if the guy set the lap under yellow, who cares? Because during a race, when a yellow comes out, yes, you can't pass, but they don't slow down.
True.
So in qualifying, I don't know what the benefit is. The yellow flag, yeah, it comes out, and maybe you should pay attention over there, make sure there's not somebody on the track and all the things you would normally do under a yellow flag. But if they're going to not slow down, I think when a yellow flag comes out, maybe everybody needs to slow down, or they need to quit canceling the laps. That's my take.
Maybe they're supposed to slow down. That's why they cancel the relapses, so that people are like, well, it's not going to matter anyway.
But it never works that way.
It doesn't work out that way. And that's kind of where I was at. I was just like, man, now that I'm thinking about it, like I said, anyway, it's just nuts because, yeah, yellow flag comes out and you could be on this freaking burner and you're not going to lift up because you don't know. It's, in a sport, there are many sports around the world where you hear the whistle. You're supposed to go until you
till you hear the whistle.
Well, no, you keep going until you physically get stopped. In American sports, it's till you hear the whistle. In most other sports, you just keep going until someone stops you and says, hey, no, it's over. Hold up. Anyway.
He's dead. So,
yeah. But.
So the other thing is, I haven't been watching long enough. Maybe I go watch some old races. Rules change all the time. But the yellow flags are in a segment. right?
Yeah,
So if you're beyond the yellow flag when it comes out and you're already on a heater, you're good. It's just if you go through the segment with the yellow.
correct.
But again, I don't know. I think there should be. I don't know. What if a guy's laying out there on the track and you're like, "Don't lift, don't lift. I'm on a heater," and you go through there. But if that happened one time, that's too many times. I get it. Save everybody. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I have problems with it.
Well, I'm glad you're kind of on the same page as me. I don't know a solution for it. Not sure how I feel about it. I just kind of just struck me this weekend. I was just like, man, there's and we've seen strategy from that before, where people go out a little bit early and they'll set their burners at the 8-minute mark instead of going out with literally everyone. And I could see an issue where if you had a bunch of riders bunched up, you could have 3 or 4 people that did lift and follow the rules that slowed down. They didn't get their lap time because they followed the rules, and then one other dude was just like, nah, went through, hit a perfect line, was good to go. But at the same time, sometimes people like they do just happen to follow. Like the weirdest part for me is that someone will get caught up in the yellow, and then the yellow like clears a tenth of a second later, and this person, because he came through perfectly, arguably could have still seen the flag and known and should have probably lifted, but didn't. And now he gets his lap time and someone else didn't.
Right.
So that's where my problem is. But anyway, qualifying was qualifying. There were some yellow flags. There kind of always are. The big ticket was that there were some pretty big names down in Q1. And there was also a pretty strange name in Q2.
Frankie Morbidelli.
Not quite. Close. Old teammate.
Oh, Quattraro.
Yes, sir. Old Fabio Quartararo himself. Made it into Q2 direct on, which is probably good because he wouldn't have made it through to Q2 if he hadn't. But ended up qualifying 8th, which is pretty good for Yamaha. And he did pretty good in the race in the sprint. Let's see. Sprint down in 10th. So he didn't ever gain, but he didn't necessarily drop too much except for when he wrecked in the race.
So I know you don't like me doing my segments, but in this week's fashion segment, what was up with the My Little Pony suit?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was kind of cool, to be honest with you, but
It's got to be a home GP thing. That was my only thought. He's in France. He's a Frenchman. Got to be some sort of tribute to home GP. But yeah, it wasn't just the suit. It was the bike too.
oh yeah,
It was the whole shebang. He got a whole livery change.
I mean, I wouldn't choose it for my bike necessarily, but it was cute for him. It was nice.
Cute.
I don't know. It looked pretty cool. It was different. I mean, if he would have won, he could have hung it up somewhere. But since he crashed, he threw all his clothes into the audience.
Yeah.
That was tough. I like that guy. I'd like to see him get up there and fight. And I know it's not him. It's the bike. All this stuff. Yada yada. But the point is, it was good to see him up there competing, banging some bars with some people.
Yeah, it was good for his home Grand Prix for sure. Him and Zarco did not very good at all, but
I forgot. Did you catch they panned to the kid in the audience crying after he crashed?
no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they panned to some kid that was just like bad, emotional, crying. I was like, that's rude. Get the camera off the poor kid. And they did.
Let him grieve.
I was like, it's okay. He's alive.
Uh,
No reason to cry. It's just racing.
yeah.
The kid thought he was at a Michael Jackson concert.
I don't know if we have. I'm sitting here trying to figure out what else we're going to talk about. I'm like, I mean, the sprint. So I will say it was another good weekend this season, as we promised, is shaped up to be great. The Aprilias and the KTM's seem to just kind of be a constant wild card? Question mark.
So, not even that. So, how embarrassing is it? What the hell happened to KTM?
No, I don't know.
So
I don't know. Are you talking about how embarrassing it is to have your rookie rider on your satellite bike doing way better than your 2 factory riders, and your factory riders can't even keep the bike up?
Yeah, he's totally. Oh, I forgot what I was going to tell you. You called out Pecco last week.
Yeah.
You said when Jorge Martin crashed, he ran over to his bike. He picked it up. When Pecco crashed, it was over the course of a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've made some comments about Pecco's just like whatever. I'm out of
Yep.
here.
100%. Yep.
Who was running across the rocks with a fire extinguisher trying to put out the fire on his own bike because nobody was helping him? Did you not see that?
When was this?
Maybe it was qualifying.
I know
It had to
Pecco and Martin both crashed in qualifying, I think it was.
It had to be in qualifying, but he looked at the bike and then he walked away, and I always notice that now. I'm like, what you gonna do, Pecco? You gonna look at your bike? You gonna do something? And the camera leaves, and they go on with whatever's going on. And pretty soon the camera comes back, and he is jogging across the rocks from a long ways away. He went clear to the wall. Nobody brought him a fire extinguisher. He went and found one, runs all the way back across the rocks, and blasts the bike with the fire extinguisher because it looked like the fairings were starting on fire on the exhaust where it was laying on its side.
Huh.
So
okay.
there. He cared.
You go. A couple of little claps, small clap. There you go. Good job, Pecco. You cared when it wasn't even in the middle of the race and didn't matter.
Yeah.
When it was in the sprint, you just dumped your bike on the side and went back to your pits. Weird.
Race over, man. Race over.
Anyway, I'll give you your top 5. Sprint, Jorge, Marquez, Vinales, Bastianini, Spargaro. So Ducati, Aprilia. And then Pedro, the rookie, which has been awfully, quiet.
He's been a little bit quiet, but to go back just a little bit to the point we're making, how embarrassing is it when he's destroying your factory riders, right?
Yeah.
And the sad thing is he's carrying the flag for KTM. He's absolutely carrying the flag this year for them.
Mm-hmm.
And to have, I don't know, I don't want to be melodramatic that way, but he has the pressure of KTM on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And for him to crash this week, rookie's going to crash, man. That's what they're going to do. He's finding the limits. He's learning how to ride the bike, and that shouldn't be on him. He should be out there just crashing a bike, having a good race here and there. But it just kind of feels like he's got the whole KTM flag on his shoulders right now.
Yeah, too much weight. I will say it seemed like just a super off week for Brad. He did have a better Sunday than Saturday. Came up to 8th place in Sunday. Jack's out there just doing Jack things, and I don't even know who Augusto Fernandez is, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I agree with that. I wanted to check, where's the calendar at? Let's see. We go to Germany. Yes, you know what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it. What does the Germany flag look like in July? So the first and only race in July is when his time will be up. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4 total races left.
That decision's already been made.
Oh, you don't think he's going to do it?
Who are we talking about?
Pedro Acosta.
Oh, I forget. You're always worried about Golden Underwear's records.
Yeah,
he can
not just like his records, but records. Those are big records. Not that he's holding them. The fact that that's a record. Who cares who had it before? You can take it.
He can get it.
He can. I won't say he can't. I don't know what happened at KTM this week. I feel like they changed something in the test. We did have a test between the last 2 GPs, and that is important. When you start to follow this sport closer and closer, you start to realize that these tests do make weird, big differences. Sometimes positive, sometimes not so much. And I've also started to learn that literally overnight, they can change a bike. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not so much. Usually for the better when it's overnight. It feels like in a test, they're like, we got so much good progress. They come out and they run the practice and they're like, we can't ride this bike. And then they qualify terrible and they're like, we got to fix this. And then overnight, they're like, we fixed it. And magically go from 13th to 2nd place. So anyway, KTM kind of feels like they were kind of on that negative, made some sort of improvement or change during the test, and it didn't quite work out. So hopefully we get that figured out for 2 weeks from now when they're in wherever they're going. I don't know.
The Aprilias, man. The Aprilias seem pretty solid if they had riders.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of Aprilias are why I'm very curious to see what happens with Martin, Marquez, and Bastianini, all 3 of them next year. Well, and honestly, Mir, I think this is his last year on Honda, and I know he ain't going to want to stay there. So, and I know you're not a Mir fan, and I don't know who in the audience is. Let me know down in the comments if you are or not, but Mir does have a world championship under his belt. He will be, if he goes to a competitive bike, he will be talked about. Before the season starts.
Will he do
Before the
anything?
season starts, he will be talked about as a possible, like, he'll be up there 100% because they still talk about it now, even on the Honda. They're like, well, don't forget. And you shouldn't forget, he does have a world championship. We've made the argument that it was just during, when everyone else was out and there was no one else to take the championship. But either way, other people didn't take it that year. So it'll be interesting. This season is nuts.
You can't tell me. Here's my problem with him. Since you brought him up, you can't tell me that the former world champion is not a better rider than Nakagami.
Okay. Yeah. Should be.
So where is his effort level at? And I get it. He's been kicked in the what for a while now.
Yeah.
But where is his effort level if he's just going to sit back there? I mean, every single week it seems he crashes by himself in the back, whatever. Joe Mir went out. It's the big joke here. We just go, took one lap longer than I thought it would. What kind of effort is that? I can't feel like he's putting in Johann Zarco level commitment.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything to say.
Alex Rins is putting in effort.
I can't argue with you. I'm not. Unfortunately, I can't argue with you. I wish I could for his sake. I wish I could. But I mean, you look at last year, him and Marc were on the same bike, and here's Marc still wrecking it, probably just as much, just about, but also producing some top 10 finishes, some top 5 finishes. When he was wrecking it, it was usually out of some crazy place where he shouldn't be.
Yeah. Like you said, 5th to 10th. He was wrecking it out of 5th to 10th. Joan Mir is wrecking it by himself in 20th.
All the way in the back of the pack, 100%. So yeah, I don't disagree with you at all.
There's no way that guy doesn't have the talent to just go tool that bike around and beat Luca Marini.
You would think so. You would hope so and think so. I don't know. He's got a kid, He's distracted. I'll give him the old kid distraction routine, something like that.
I'm sure the guy's awesome, but that's where my problem is. Any Moto GP racer, anybody who's ever sat on one or got close to one, is at such a high talent level that it's just crazy. And I'll give him that all day, but I'm judging him on the level of
compared to everyone else. Yeah.
And I don't like how they sit on that championship because he almost acts like, well, I'll just get another ride somewhere because I was once the champion.
He probably will.
I'm like, listen, buddy, Suzuki ain't here anymore.
Dude, I was going to talk to you about that. The GSX-8R.
You going to buy one?
Do you find it weird? Ugly bike, hate it, terrible, don't like it. But do you find it weird that Suzuki has a GSX-8R to replace their Gixxer 1000? And then Moto GP announces they're going to 850cc bikes.
So you're off.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to say that because it's not a super sport and it's not.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's too far removed because they're not. They said 850ccs. They didn't say twins.
That's fair. 100% fair.
And if you look at Yamaha with the R7, that's not a replacement for the R1, obviously.
Yeah.
They're coming out with
it was just a thought.
I think you'll see something else from Suzuki coming. Something bigger than that.
But they're coming back, huh?
I don't know. That's the first time.
You called BMW. You called Jorge Martin being on. Let's get another one.
Depends on the economy.
All right. We'll leave it at the economy.
Suzuki made a big commitment the last year. They came out with a lot of new bikes, which is something they hadn't done in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how the financials look for them.
They have to sell the bikes that they came out with. And for that to happen, people have to like them. So
I would also argue that I don't hate that bike.
The 8R?
From a cosmetics standpoint. I don't love it.
Okay, Cole and I are going to talk offline about the ugliest bike known to mankind. We'll get back to racing here. But I don't know what to cover on. I think the race, I think it was another great race.
So did we find out what was wrong with Pecco's bike in the sprint?
I don't remember seeing anything actually.
He had a horrible start.
Yeah, it was like an actual one-off.
I know there's money involved, but sometimes I look at like a Jorge I don't see him out there with mechanical issues. But I've seen Pecco with, let's say, 3 mechanicals in the last 2 years.
Uh-huh.
There always seems to be kind of something, unless it's a cover-up for a bad day or whatever. But there was obviously something wrong with the bike there, and then he wrecked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to drop back that quickly after qualifying on the front row, aiding in a
So
certain person's upcoming, and
So Marc keeps getting quoted in the media, along with everything he's ever said, as you pointed out, on the day-to-day basis, whether it's what he had for lunch or whatever. But they have quoted him a couple times saying, to truly fight for the championship, you need every edge. You need the newest parts, the best parts, the fastest parts, the whatever. And there's a part of me that's like, you know what? Jorge could have very easily won the championship last year on a Pramac. He's looking like he's very capable of doing it again this year. I mean, he could have 2 championships right now or by the end of this year on a Pramac, arguably, if that would have went a little different.
yeah, not
And
a lot different, like a little bit.
yeah, so I don't know. The grass isn't always greener. I know that's a pride thing, and I think mostly a financial thing.
Yeah,
Marc
yeah,
must have had to give Honda too much money back. He's trying to get back to the pinnacle so he can get paid.
something like that.
He's got a girlfriend, man. They can be expensive.
Yeah, he's also got a museum.
It's fair. I'm sure he's financially fine.
I don't want to know. I really don't, because usually it actually makes me sad how little they make compared to everyone else in the world for what they're doing.
I think once
but-
you get over a certain number, it's like doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's fair. I'll give you that. Yeah, so Pecco had a fault. Marquez came up from 13th into second. There were definitely some wrecks in the way there. That was the sprint. Great fight. No one had anything for Jorge. On Sunday, Jorge and Pecco were... I think Pecco actually led it for quite a while.
Yeah, Pecco.
And Jorge just kind of sat back and just waited and waited and waited. And that is, that's the recurring theme this year for Jorge, and what we're all... If there was anything that was going to not let him win, it was his lack of, we would call it a maturity, whatever you want to call it. But he has found that this year for the most part, as far as we're seeing so far, and is 100% able to just kind of hold himself when he needs to, attack when he needs to, keep it when he needs to, whatever you want to call it. He's got it. He's got a bag full. He's good to go. So that's exactly what he did on Sunday. Perfect showdown. And then here comes Marc again with a crazy start. Not quite as good. And just kind of starts climbing. And then amazing last lap.
Did you hear him in his after the race interview when he said, I'm here, it was great that something to the effect that it was great that while he was alone in in third, but he had a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
He said when he was able to just run alone and run record times or, setting the fastest laps, he said how great that was. And he said, then when I got there, I was going to go for it. And then he just looked at the camera again. I was going to go for it. He repeated himself. It's like, yeah, we all know, Marc. We all know you're.
Yeah. It's funny because everyone's been saying that. They're like, he's going to go for it if it's there. And here he is this week. I'm going to go for it. But, an interesting story I saw, and I can't quote the source, so I don't know how legit it is, but someone was interviewing his brother. His brother said that Marc has figured out the way he rode the Honda had a certain way of braking, right? So you could come into a corner and brake all crazy, and it was super stable on the front end. And I think the argument right now is that that's what they lost, and that's why they're so unrideable. But anyway, in his years at Honda, apparently he was amazing on the front brakes. That was one of the key parts of Marc Marquez in that Honda. He could just point shoot wherever he needs to go, front brakes into a corner, great. Alex Marquez was quoted saying that he has figured out how to bring that to Ducati where no one thought it was possible. And so it's something I might try and start looking for a little bit to see if I can notice. I'm usually not good enough to pick up on those key little tiny differences from rider to rider. But he also said someone said that corner that he made up, 2 seconds in a corner.
Yeah, he was closing some serious gaps there.
Yeah, and they're saying that was the Marc style that shouldn't work on a Ducati, but he's figured it out, and so that might be the key that unlock. Anyway, we can go down the route of whatever. Marc Marquez fans are happy, but you got to admit that was something that we haven't necessarily seen before. So it'll be kind of interesting to watch that play. Again, this is all just playing into my my key to you, our listeners, our watchers, viewers, whatever you want to call yourselves, friends. If you got
Shut
friends that
off
aren't
the
watching,
Bachelor and turn on Moto GP. Is that what you're
yeah,
going
yeah.
to?
If
Okay.
you got friends that aren't watching, like, this crap's exciting. I had multiple people over my house. We were all on the edge of our seats. A couple of them, or one of them, maybe hasn't even watched before, does watch. I don't know, but all on the edge of our seats, watching the whole time. It's exciting. It's ramping up. You got two non-factory riders that are up there going haywire. One of them's just happy to be riding well again, and I don't know. Like, obviously, you care about a championship, but who knows if he actually cares? The other one really freaking wants it and wants to prove something to the world that he can do it. The other guy is defending a double world championship, trying to prove that he does belong on that red bike for the next 2 years, and it's awesome. And then you get KTM. Hopefully, gets their bike flopped back around to a good one, and yeah,
So while you're on that, the last thing I want to say about that is how hard was that? The podium celebration?
mm-hmm.
Marc doing his third dance of the year.
Yeah. I stopped watching them.
Well, you missed out because that was the most difficult thing to watch. Pecco try to act excited.
Oh yeah,
Because those other guys were stoked. I mean, Jorge Martin was over the moon.
yep.
Marc Marquez, he's having a party. And they were there. Did you see when they're riling the crowd up and they're like, yeah, like that? And Pecco's over there doing the golfer clap.
It's like, yeah, woo, I did third, and what's going back to the garage? What's wrong with my bike?
Yeah, he was not happy. Most people would kill themselves for a third place, but he was not happy.
I can't blame him too much, and I think that's why I'm so excited for the rest of the year, though, is because Pecco's going to get angry, and often when Pecco's angry, he actually rides really well.
I'd agree.
Like I said, he's got that kind of non-robot edge this year, mixed in with his robot style. He just needs to hold it together. Saturday was some sort of fluke with the bike. I think we've wrapped that up. We don't think it was a Pecco fault. So those are the worst because you're like, man, he had a terrible weekend, but it's not their fault. And you like, it's actually true. Unfortunately, Jorge Martin's running away with it still. Not as bad as he was again after last week, but
But he started heading that direction again.
yeah, I got a 129 to a 91, and then 2 points behind 91 of Pecco is both Marc and Bastianini just waiting, eager, sitting at 89 points. Only 2 points behind second place. Third and fourth are tied, or they're both tied for third. And then Maverick Vinales honestly, he's only 10 points behind Pecco. He's really not that much further behind. After that, it's kind of kicking down. Pedro was up there with us, and he doesn't need to come out and win his championship. He got to get that bike figured out. We're hoping. I'm not actually hoping, but at the same time, a world record being set is cool. So I'm not against it. Obviously, I'm a Marc fan. I want Marc to keep his world record, but it's cool when someone sets a new one. So it'd be sweet to see Pedro, not Pecco, Pedro win by Germany or at Germany, I think. So
It's Pedro.
Okay.
Have you seen the Instagrams going around with the stupid little raccoon in the tube or whatever that's going?
Yeah, dancing to the yeah.
Did you not see Pedro did the same thing? It's got the tube and you're expecting the raccoon to jump out and it was just him and he's going, Pedro.
No, I didn't catch that. I'll have to go look for it.
That was awesome. He's a character, man, and that's what we need in the sport.
All right.
He's a good guy to have in the sport. The shark.
He is good. He is good. It's good. It's good to have him there. It's good to have Marc back. It's good to have Jorge on top of his game and not wrecking out. I'm kind of hoping, I don't want to say it, but I'm hoping that Jorge Martin might make another mistake. I don't want him to wreck out, but
I do want him to keep it close, so I'm not rooting for him to crash, but I hope the other guys step up and beat him a few more times here.
Yeah. It'd be nice to get like a good shakeup, right? Like, let's get a Brad Binder win. Let's get a Bezzecchi win. Let's have Jorge and Pecco fighting down in like fourth and fifth just to scrape some points up or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Let's shake things up and get it even back out. But honestly, it's not bad. The racing is great. The guys at the front, all three of those big names, as they're coming out right now, the three big names, and Bastianini ain't quite there, or hasn't been, and wasn't this weekend. But those three, they're all on the same bike, so it's difficult, but they're going to keep delivering good races guaranteed because they've all got slightly different styles, slightly different maturity levels, and slightly different skin in the game. So
we've seen sparks from Digi. We've seen sparks from Bezzecchi also. I mean, they're going to be playing around up front as the year progresses.
Yeah, it does seem like that test kind of got them moving too. So,
Yeah, they had a bad start to the year, but they both seem to be coming on,
yep.
except for the crashes.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Bezzacchi, that was both days, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that because he was doing fine, doing good, and then out.
He was podium contention both days.
And I think it was the same corner.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, that's your MotoGP coverage for the week. We will be back to MotoGP in 2 weeks, but between then and now, we have Moto America down at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. Hopefully not too wet, but expecting a little bit of rain. If you're there, come find us. Look for the flag. We'll be there. Come say hi. Love to chat and
Absolutely.
cheer on our guy. Old
Our guys,
guys, all of them. The Privateer Racing Squad will be there in full.
they're en route now. And since this is coming out on Wednesday, you want me to do the thing? You want to go, please like, subscribe, do all the things. Check us out on Spotify, the RSS feeds.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I will see you tomorrow.
I will when this comes out.
Yeah.
Thanks for
everyone.
watching. We'll see you next week.